Welcome to this edition of the... What's so special about Alcos? Well, it might be their bold design or the distinctive sound of their engines, or the fact that they were usually number 2 or number 3 behind the electromotive division, and everybody loves an underdog. In this program, we're going to show you a variety of Alco diesels, starting with switchers, then road switchers, then the big Alcos, and finally cab units. And now, sit back and enjoy those amazing Alcos. The history of the company that built this diesel locomotive, the American Locomotive Company, also known as Alco, is a colorful one. Organized in 1848, the company built tens of thousands of steam engines, including the biggest of them all, Union Pacific's Big Boy. While steam was Alco's bread and butter as late as World War II, the company began producing standardized diesel-electric locomotives in the 1920s. By 1948, Alco owned 40% of the diesel locomotive market. Representing Alco during those years of motive power transition were PA and FA cab units, S-class switchers, and RS 1, 2, and 3 road switchers. During this time, Alco and GE merged their locomotive sales forces and marketed locomotives under the Alco GE name. In 1953, GE went its own way in the locomotive market, leaving Alco to change its name to Alco Products. In the 1960s, the company introduced a new line of locomotives, the Century Series. Nevertheless, the writing was on the wall. Alco finally threw in the towel in 1969, leaving the domestic diesel market to competitors GE and the electromotive division of General Motors, known as EMP. Although Alco no longer produces locomotives, its former plant in Auburn, New York, remains in service. It builds diesel power plants and parts to support those Alco locomotives still in service, a list that includes the diesels you'll see in this show, Amazing Alcos.
We have several criteria for picking out backup motive power. One, it needed to be cheap. Two, it needed to be big enough to pull the train. Three, it needed to be cheap. Four, it needed to be new enough that you could buy parts for it. Five, it needed to be cheap. And six, it needed to be old enough to not have a number of printed circuit boards on it that we had no ability to test or maintain. These units fall into that category. They're engine components and chassis components are available from Alco locomotives. The electrical components are all available from General Electric to their distributor Logan. So far, every part we've needed, we've called up the original manufacturers and said, we need part X, Y, Z, and they've told us how much and how long.
Our program starts with the Rodney Dangerfield of locomotive models, the lowly I Can't Get No Respect switcher. Maine Coast S1 958 rolled out of Alco's factory in Schenectady, New York in 1949 as Maine Central number 958. Like the other 535 S1s, 958 has the familiar low-hood Alco switcher car body, radiator at the front, and exhaust stack at the rear. Rated at 660 horsepower, the S1 has a smaller radiator shutter area, taller than it is wide, than its 1,000 horsepower sister, the S2. The S1 also has a smaller exhaust stack with a circular base.
This is a very versatile little locomotive, and it's in pretty good shape for its age. It belongs to Jim Moore. He owns it personally. And it's a Main Central locomotive that came out of Waterville. So you notice it still has the pine tree on it. It's good engine. Like all Alcos, it consumes more oil than fuel, but it works pretty good.
It's no coincidence that Maine Coast's paint scheme closely resembles that of the Maine Central. 14 years after Guilford Transportation bought the Maine Central, Maine Coast took over the operations of the former Maine Central line from Rockland to Augusta, Maine. Owned by a private party, the 958 handled excursions from Wiscasset west to Bath and east to Warren. Unfortunately, the railroad's lease expired and was not renewed at the end of 2000. Stockton Terminal in eastern S1 505 is a long way from excursion service as it bustles around Stockton, California. Built for the Western Pacific in 1942, number 505 came to the ST&E in 1968. 64 years earlier, 1904 to be exact, the slow, tired, and easies began operations between Stockton and Jenny Linn's, California. Today, the railroad functions primarily as a local switching road within Stockton. Despite an impressive roster of 5 Alcos and 1 EMD switcher, ST&E only works 1 crew. That crew, in turn, works 1 shift 5 days a week. The Alcos are now used as backup power if the EMD is down for repairs. Two more S1s survive on the Livonia, Avon, and Lakeville's Southern Division, also known as B&H Rail Corporation. Chartered as the Bath and Hammondsport in 1872, the railroad's operating rights went to the LA&L in 1996. In January 2001, LA&L turned the operation over to a wholly owned subsidiary called the Cohocton Valley Rail Corporation. Here, a pair of new EMD SD70Ms break in behind the S1. They cruise the former Lackawanna line between Bath and Painted Post near Corning, New York. The route's the result of an agreement with the line's owner, Norfolk Southern.